The creature on Slowbro's tail is a Shellder, but why does it look so weird? Well, the answer might be darker than you think. You probably know already that Slowpoke evolves into Slowbro when a Shellder bites its tail. This is because Slowpoke's tail secretes a kind of sweet sap that is tasty to Shellder. But not just Shellder, people like to eat Slowpoke tails too. Who remembers Smokepoke tails from Sword and Shield? Here's the item's description. One of the many ingredients that can be used for cooking at your camp. When a Slowpoke's tail falls off, it grows back quickly. Yup, these are smoked Slowpoke tails, ready to be added to your curry. Slowpoke tail is also an item in Gold and Silver. It's not an item in the remakes, but it's alluded to by this man who offers to sell you one for 1 million Pokédollars, which you can't get in those games. But Gen 2 was pretty messed up. We saw Team Rocket take over Azalea Town and Slowpoke Well to cut off Slowpoke tails and sell them on the black market. This not only happened in the games, but also the Pokemon Adventures manga. Some people think that recent Pokédex entries for Slowpoke are meant to soften the blow of these atrocities. So we know that Slowpoke tails are tasty, and we know that people and Shellder alike are akin to their succulent sapage. But why does Shellder look so different when attached to a Slowpoke? Well, the relationship between Slowpoke and Shellder is a weird one. Pokemon Moon tells us that when a Shellder bites down hard on a Slowpoke's tail, it gives the Slowpoke a flash of inspiration. Pokemon Sun tells us that Shellder's poison flows through Slowbro's body, which makes him even spacier than he was as Slowpoke. Is the poison getting him high? But Pokemon Ultra Moon gave us the most damning entry, which tells us exactly why Shellder's appearance changes. Shellder, in its need to suck out more and more sweetness from Slowbro's tail, has metamorphosed into a spiral-shaped shell. This is evidence that the sap from Slowpoke's tail may have something to do with Shellder's change in appearance. Its greed has literally twisted it into an entirely new creature. In its effort to extract more and more sap and its refusal to let go, it has twisted itself into a spiral. One can only wonder if this has affected the Pokemon's personality. We know that a Slowbro will revert back to a Slowpoke if its tail along with the Shellder breaks off. But I'm curious about this lone Shellder. Is it seeking other Slowpokes to bite because it's addicted? Is it now more aggressive? Its appearance would suggest so. And one thing I would love to see is this twisted Shellder as its own Pokemon. Oh wait, it was. It was supposed to be in Gold and Silver as Turban, a water-type Pokemon. This was revealed to us in a 2018 leak of Gold and Silver's 1997 beta demo. It's not clear why they scrapped it, but one thing is for certain. It would just make sense for the lore to have this in the game, and to exist as its own Pokemon like it was originally going to be. It makes sense that you would find them in the wild, since Slowpoke apparently lose their tails all the time according to newer dex entries, and it even makes sense that you would be able to evolve one by giving a Shellder a Slowpoke tail. Either way, we need to see this added to the game soon. Now you might be wondering, why would a Shellder bite a Slowpoke on the head like with Slowking? Well, apparently the Shellder is attracted to the King's Rock on the Slowpoke's head, which is why he needs to be holding one to evolve into Slowking. The Shellder then morphs because it's tapping into the Slowpoke's hidden psychic powers, and that makes sense. But one thing that doesn't make sense is why a Shellder would bite a Galarian Slowpoke on the hand, and this is where I'm going to be doing some of my own theorizing. So the Sword and Shield website tells us that Slowpoke of the Galar region loved feeding on Galarica seeds. These seeds contained a spice used for cooking, and over several generations, the Slowpoke built up particles of this spice in their bodies, which changed their appearance. Their appearance changed in the two spots where Shellder are known to bite. It's said that a Galarian Slowpoke evolves when a Shellder's poison mixes with the spices and sets off a chemical reaction, which turns it into a poison type. Galarian Slowking has the same chemical reaction, but like before, the Shellder taps into Slowpoke's psychic powers, which actually transfers to the Shellder, making it incredibly powerful. The Slowpoke, on the other hand, is like a walking piece of waste, being controlled by the Shellder. As you can see, the Shellder still looks different when it's on the Slowbro's hand, and this could be because of the chemical reaction, but it still doesn't make sense why a Shellder would bite a Galarian Slowpoke in the first place. To evolve a Galarian Slowbro, your Slowpoke must be wearing a Galarian cuff, a sort of bracelet woven from Galarica twigs. To evolve into Galarian Slowking, it needs a Galarica wreath, which is placed on its head. Like I mentioned before, Galarian Slowpoke has changed in both areas where a Shellder would typically bite. It's possible that Shellder aren't attracted to Galarian Slowpoke's tails anymore, and they could instead be attracted to the Galaria twigs that the Slowpoke is wearing. But why would Shellder be attracted to just the twigs and not the tail? Well, there is a real-life equivalent for most things in Pokemon, and it seems that the Galarica seeds that Slowpoke love eating so much could be based off of fennel plants. The seeds from this plant are used for spices in real life, and the plants can become toxic when exposed to sunlight. They are a phototoxic plant, which means means if a human eats fennel seeds while exposed to sunlight, they can experience sunburn-like blisters. UVA rays can also attack your DNA, killing cells and damaging your skin. What if Slowpoke retained permanent damage in its DNA after generations of eating the seeds? Is it possible that Shellder are repulsed by Slowpoke's damaged skin, but attracted to the sweetness of the plant itself, just as it's attracted to the sweetness of a regular Slowpoke's tail? Well, thanks a lot for watching, guys. This was my first real full-length video. I try to keep my content fast-paced and straight to the point, while still being as informative as possible. So if you think I did a good job at that today, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Have a blessed day.